Recording. Oh, I don't hear you yet. There you are. How do you do? I'm a
How do
little
I
disheveled, pardon me.
Oh, I'm a little disheveled. How about dishevel or that shovel?
That shoveled. I want
That,
that
that
shoveled,
shovel or
right?
this
That
shovel?
shoveled. Yeah, I got a little.
I'm exhausted. I was going to go take a nap because I forgot about this. So I'm glad you let me know. It's just too much. I have too much going on.
I
I
know.
got
Me
a
too.
title for today, Empathy Less. That's a great title for today. And I need to chill
Empathy-less-ness.
out. Yeah, empathy-less-ness. How do you define empathy-less-ness?
Well, this is your topic. So I want to
Yeah,
turn that could be the first question, or I could ask that in return to you. How do you define empathy-lessness?
well, I don't ever say that phrase, I guess, in that way. So that's why I thought it was you. You coined it that way. I would tend to say lack of empathy. I never heard it called
I,
empathy-lessness. I've
I
never
think
really
I
used it.
quoted you actually in making that list.
Yeah, you made your own word with that.
No,
I
I'm
did. I
looking
never
it
said
up.
it. I never said it.
You
I
never said it?
would say something else, but I wouldn't say it. Anyway, I thought that sounded like a movement, whatever. Sounded like a movement or something that has been talked about in that way, which is great.
There's a
I just thought
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm still defending my case.
it's okay, it
Penny
doesn't matter.
Dreadful. You said the lasting damage of empathy-lessness. Penny Dreadful.
Did I send that to you as a link?
No, we spoke about it. And then empathy, is it blame or accusation? Wait for the receiver
Oh,
to accept the care you offer.
oh, the care I offer is I want to move on from this, which is it doesn't matter. I want to talk about this however it came. All right.
I take good
Anyway,
notes.
lack of empathy. You're not willing to let go of it yet.
I am. I
You're-
like, it's all yours. No.
Um, lack of empathy seems to be the word empathy seems to be very popular, but empathy-lessness. I think if I heard it first, I heard it in regards to City of Angels. I've never heard it penned that way before. Never have.
Hmm.
So there was an article, I guess, that I did not read, but it's the main. Do you know the show?
I know the show, haven't seen it.
It is about Penny Dreadful was done first in the 1890s. It took place in England, and they had a whole set of characters: Frankenstein, Dorian Gray, that muddled around with these characters in 1890s England. The next Penny Dreadful, City of Angels, takes place, I believe, in the 30s with the uprising of Nazism in Los Angeles, and
Oh.
how police and the Latinos are against each other, and how there's a woman that represents, I guess she represents evil. And it's more than just empathy-lessness, but evil. And she's the same actress that plays different characters in these people's lives. So I guess she
Oh.
plays a Latino with the Latins to motivate them. And then she plays a German woman to be with the Nazi guy in LA. And then she plays a secretary of the supervisor in LA, all creating. And then she'll walk by people in her own like fabulous outfit, and just she'll check out who is open to evil, I suppose, and it changes them to be violent, whatever. So I guess it's referring to there's no empathy for anybody; it's just causing hell.
Mm.
But the way
Mm.
I think of empathy-lessness, see, it's hard to say. So I'd rather say lack of empathy.
Yeah, I
Although
agree.
but empathy-lessness sounds more like a syndrome, the way it's kind of said. But I'll give an example. I have a mentally ill neighbor who's causing a
Yes.
lot of problems. And this kind of behavior, on some level, I've experienced before with people that may not be considered mentally ill, but they definitely have problems, but not this far, where I try to explain she was getting something across. She was threatening me about
Mm.
something. And every time I tried to respond, she didn't want to hear it. This
Mm.
was about her being angry and getting some need met that I wasn't doing, and she only wanted that. She had no response from me. She would turn around and look the other way. There was no getting through to her.
Mm.
So there was no equanimity. There was no conversation. She will accuse me of things, but of being loud, but she's loud screaming every day. So
Sounds
all
like it.
about, yeah, it's all about her. So empathylessness is really about somebody who doesn't consider someone else in the conversation to a certain degree. It's funny because, I think liberals, or they fall on, I mean, we've talked about this in a lot of different ways, but like I'll see a lot of white liberals with Black Lives Matter signs. And I'll even hear them saying things like, I'm really ashamed of myself as a white man and I have to be better about these things. And I'm like, okay, that's like, I don't know, there's something about it that bothers me with that. That's like going way in the other direction.
It's
There's
hyper
something about,
empathy.
I don't know if there's empathy there. It's like self-blame more than empathy. I don't think empathy has anything to do with that. I think it's like, it's they're beating themselves, and I don't think it's the point. It's like, I think the point, okay, you make a very good choice. You made a very good point by pointing that out, the lack of the opposite. Where I'd see it, if they really had empathy for themselves about their prejudice or racism, instead of saying, I got to be better, Black Lives Matter, and I'm really angry at myself as a white person and what we've done to this, the real self-empathy would be the statement, I've been raised in a culture that has promoted this. How could I help being who I am and some of my prejudices? I have to look at how I was raised and other things, but it was in me and some things beyond my own doing, how I was raised, what I was brought up. That takes a while to unwind. You hear the empathy in that, there's self-empathy in that, rather than beating.
That's really important. That's really important to have
But
that.
there's a difference.
Yeah.
The difference between the two. And liberals, unfortunately, when they're attacking issues, tend to be more intolerant of intolerance, less self-empathic or even empathic. It gets confused with empathy, but it's really a lack of intolerance. Look how they got rid of what, Roseanne Barr, ABC, when she said a bunch of stupid things, whatever, and they did all that. Well, they just got rid of her. Okay. Liberals will say, that's a success, we got rid of them. We're going to get rid of Donald Trump. It's a success. Get rid of Mitch McConnell. It's a success. We got rid of them. Do you really think you're getting rid of the ideas behind that? Really? By getting rid of those people? To get rid of them or not is a separate issue. But to censor somebody completely because they said something like that and not even get them to speak or have a way about it, there's something wrong with that. It's just complete intolerance. Just get rid of them.
Well, so in the case of the curator at the SF MoMA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, his statement was about, well, don't worry, we'll still have the old white men, the old white, all white artists, and which they have, and they have for a long time. And there's been discussion about that. Because maybe there are 17 women in the whole Museum of Modern Art, and there's 100 and something men. But also, I wasn't, of course, I wasn't there, and I didn't read a transcript of the statements. And if I look at it, he could have also been saying, there throughout history, other genders and races have not gotten their due, and so these guys are not going away. So yeah, of course, we will still have them. I don't know if there was malice there, in a sense, saying,
well, it's out of context. How do you know?
Exactly. I don't know. I don't know, but he was fired for it. So
was he prematurely fired then? Seems to me that's.
I don't know. I don't know the case. I don't know.
The answer has to be yes. The answer is yes, because at least at this side of it, you don't have enough information to make it a no. So even if there was information, it's not out there enough to make it a yes.
I didn't follow up on the case.
I mean, there may be, but it doesn't say. I got to tell you, on the surface, the statement didn't sound that bad to me. However, to someone else on the board, maybe somebody had a problem with him in the past and they've made a lot of comments, and then this is like the last straw, but I don't have that history. Yeah. So why would I empathize with the firing?
Yeah, no, and that's it. It does get blown blown out.
I mean,
I
to
think,
devastate.
why not treat the guy like an alcoholic and give him an opportunity to re-educate, and to show how he has learned differently
Well,
and to act differently, because he has tremendous credentials and capacity to change. And if he did, how much better would that be in the public eye if he
liberals
changed?
don't do that. Real
What?
liberals don't. They don't do that. They don't do that.
What
It's
do you
not in the
mean?
liberals. It's too much. I'm not saying liberals can't do it. It's just not. It just hasn't been done. I agree with you. I think it has to be. There has to be a better, a bigger picture of looking at this rather than just getting rid of them. You think you're going to teach them a lesson by sending them home?
No, just people get angry,
Right.
and then
Exactly. So
they
get rid
do
of them.
something else and they counter it. Or, but then I do understand. I mean, unfortunately, look at, off with their heads. Look at the French Revolution. They had to get rid of them altogether to change the culture. I don't know, and but then that was hyper liberal, and then Nazism was hyper fascism.
Yeah, and that's such a human state of getting rid of the thing you don't agree with. And democracy really is not about getting what you want. It's being able to tolerate and perhaps possibly understand another side or try to. I mean, it seems to me democracy is more about that. It's why it's so unusual in the world. But now it's turned into, it's just turned into I want a dictator who just agrees with, what I like. My father just wants he just wants somebody to agree with him. If they're agree with him, they don't care if it's a dictator.
Uh,
No, that's not democracy.
That's right.
It's not really thinking about anybody else, but it is ideally liberal. When I say liberal, I mean hyper liberal or people that are just hyper left. I don't mean the liberal idea is supposed to be someone who takes in a lot of points of view. That should be what it really is. And
Yeah.
really assess them when possible. And every one of these cases is very different and has to be taken in a case-by-case basis. You
Mm.
mentioned the Museum of Modern Art one. I'm thinking about all these people. There's that guy in San Francisco who videotaped. He was putting Black Lives Matter in front of his house, and the woman and man goes, "What are you doing? We know the owner of that house. You shouldn't do that. Do you know the owner of the house? I'm the owner of the house. Oh no, I know the owner of the house. He was the owner of the house." Both of those people in the video. This is happening a lot. Remember, he got fired. The guy that was filming them saying, "You shouldn't be doing that. Black Lives Matter on that sidewalk. That's not yours." He goes, "It is mine." He wasn't black. I think he was Asian, the owner, but he's not in the video. And the woman says, "I know this. No, I know the owner. It's not you. And it's not them." And then she came up with a statement after the partner was fired. She was fired. "Oh, we didn't know about the ignorance going on." How does she go from in a video lying or making a mistake? We don't know if she's lying. We really don't know what's inside her head. People use the word lying all the time. You really don't know if someone's lying. You really don't know what's in their head. You're either lying or mistaken that was the owner of the house. So how does she go from that to saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry about the prejudice that I've perpetrated"? We need to see the steps. It's like geometry.
Mm.
We understand she jumped to the end, but we don't learn anything unless we see the steps,
Mm. Mm.
right?
Mm. Mm.
How do
Yeah.
you learn anything?
Read
The
a
answer doesn't mean
transcript.
anything to us. Does it mean anything to you that this woman is caught on tape saying it's not your house, and all of a sudden she apologized later? Does it mean anything to you without understanding her process? No.
Mm.
You've
Well,
heard
it's
it
the
before.
story. I mean, we know the story, but yeah, she apologizes. Does she really know? I mean,
Does she mean
does
it?
she really change? Is that the does
Right.
she know
But
that
I
she's
think if you
changing?
saw if you saw steps to getting there, the apology would have more weight.
Mhm.
It would
Mhm.
mean something. Any asshole can say they're sorry. My
Yeah,
father says
exactly.
he's sorry to end the conversation so we can go to something else. He doesn't really mean it. Yeah. I mean,
That's
people will do this.
mm.
So
Mm.
anyway, then what about the lady in Central Park who did the thing about a black man is attacking me? Remember that video? And he's
Right.
filming her. She's not at all. Talk about someone who's panic stricken. She was fired from her job. So let's try to empathize with her for a minute. What the hell is going on in her head? Now,
Oh,
empathize. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean I agree with it. It
yeah.
means, what?
Sure.
It means what is going on in her head to be so frightened she is filmed being clearly not attacked by this man, but still calling the police and saying it. She is out of her context right there. Something is happening, temporary brain damage, I want to call it, from anxiety. What is happening to her to even perpetuate clearly this lie while she's on video? Something not great is happening psychologically to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
But who wants to empathize with her? Nobody does. They hate her.
Well, I mean, that I recognize. Sorry, I just took a breath. A message came from one of my team members who's a little challenged with things at the moment. When we see someone who is clearly exhibiting evil
Bad behavior.
We let them have it. And she was too hot to touch. Her company didn't want her in the office anymore. She needed to, I wonder what she's doing. I wonder, so I have empathy. I wonder what she is doing, how she is surviving. Like the same way I wonder how Chauvin, the policeman who knelt on George Floyd's neck, I wonder what his life is like. Is he putting down beers and just sitting like this at the kitchen table? His wife left him. You know, these are the consequences of being of bad behavior.
They are. I want to back up a little bit. I'm going to take the other side of it, just to hit the other side of it. I totally agree that their consequences of bad behavior. But you said, in regards to the woman in the park, or even the guy that was on Chauvin, is that his name? Like chauvinist, isn't that his name? Chauvin.
I know, it is. It's they probably say Chauvin or Chauvin or something.
Right. Both of them, you kind of use the term kind of evil. I don't know if they're evil. We just know they have bad behavior.
I know. I don't. No, but I'm speaking from the global point of view.
It's so easy to confuse that. You know, it's so we know they're bad behavior. We don't know they're evil. At least right now, you would have to do investigation, understanding what their thought process was like. Does not excuse the behavior, but unless we ask questions of the behavior and not just get rid of people and just have them have the consequences that they deserve or not, there's no learning going on. We don't learn about it.
Not for us. I wonder, did you read anything more about, I love these people are being called Karens. What are the men being called?
Kens.
Oh, really?
How about if your name is Karen? How about that? Oh, I got a whole thing about that, but tell me what you're going to say, because
No, I mean, I think there might have been, I don't know, but the man who was accosted, in a way, I mean, he was accosted. He was in the right. It was a birding area where dogs were not supposed to be, and he addressed her calmly, and then started videotaping her. I think in response to her videotaping him, right? I don't remember who came first, whose camera came out first.
When I think about that interaction you just said, and my understanding is she clearly did not want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
And you never know what that trigger does to her and how she was raised or what's happened to her. And a black man saying it to her, you don't know what the triggers are. They set her off into what I would call catastrophic behavior that's not commensurate with the question or the request. Her behavior is not commensurate with the request. It was catastrophic. So something happened to her in that moment.
Yeah, and I wonder if it triggered something, or it was really because she was not getting her way. And that's the way I saw it. I think it was a general consensus.
I believe it's because it triggered something. Her response was too great. It wasn't based on just, she could be a little irritated by told him what to do, but not that response.
Yeah.
That it triggered something deeper and she went off on it. And people will do that. So you look at her and go, oh my God, you're crazy. But if you understood her psychologically, there would be an explanation of her behavior, not an acceptance of her behavior, an explanation.
Sure,
like people say, oh, that's an excuse. I love the phrase, there's no such thing as excuses, there's explanations. Because there's always an explanation, even if the person doesn't even know why. If it was
Sure.
dealt, there's always an explanation.
Mm. No, that's good, Anthony. That's empathetic of you. And I mean, and you are right. And this is in part why I um, don't want to show films where there is a bad guy and we like to see the bad guy hurt or learn a lesson. There's a film called Schwarzfahrer by Pepe Dankert, German, and it's classic. It's been remade. A black person gets on the U-Bahn in a German-speaking city. He sits down in the only seat that's available next to an older conservative woman. She's dressed just so, and she sits down and she ruffles her coat, and did he have to be so close to me? She mumbles under her breath. Or did she? And so the guy says nothing, and she continues berating him, saying, I bet you don't even have a ticket, and going on, and really being racial
Abuse.
slur after racial slur, abusive, yes. And so, as in Germany, someone comes around, surprises them to check tickets, and it's a scary thing. But if you have your ticket, it's not a scary thing. And this is when she said, I bet you don't even have a ticket. And I said, well, I do have a ticket. And she holds her ticket up, and the guy comes around to check it. And just before, he grabs the ticket and he eats it. The black man does.
Her ticket.
Her ticket. So she has no ticket. And so she is escorted out. And
So do you like that or you don't like it? I'm trying to understand your example why you
well,
brought it up.
I mean, I believe that this woman is a caricature, but she does, I mean, of a racist. She may exist in the countryside of Germany, like she exists in the rural areas of America, or maybe Upper West Side New York, or Upper East Side New York, maybe. Someone who has somehow isolated themselves, and then when they come back into society, it's not what they think it should be. They're not open to um, the difference around them. And and so yes, this is one way we learn the lessons through those kinds of stories. Um, but I would want to have empathy. Maybe that's the discussion. I want to have the empathy for this person, to understand what happened to them to make them feel so irritated and aggravated by someone of a different color. What is it? And that's the big question right now, isn't it? Is it just presumption? Is it having never met and talked with, sat with, gone to the home of someone who is different than us, who, and there is because they're poorer? Because really, it comes down to that. I mean, if a wealthy person invites us to their home, we're happy to go. But if it's someone who's poor, we might feel uncomfortable. And what if they ask something of us? This. So it may not be race, but more socioeconomics.
So I want to ask you a question. How long is the film?
It's 18 minutes, I think.
In 18 minutes, okay, it seems longer. It seems longer than that point is made in the film. So I'm curious what builds up. There must be more detailed things built up other than just her murmuring under her breath for 17 of those minutes, right?
No, it's just her, and she's playing the role of someone from privilege. She's white, she's well dressed, she's well groomed, and she's taking public transportation. And of course, you're going to encounter the public. And so she makes it clear that she's a racist and that she feels xenophobic more than racist. More, I would say, a xenophobe.
I don't know any racists who agree that they're racist, though.
You know, this is a wonderful, and I so wish my former boyfriend Jean Benoit. You remember him? His father was a director in Switzerland. He made a film for Swiss television, two documentaries. One was he put an article in the paper asking for people who think they are powerful. And he answered all of these letters, organized a group of 12 people, put them in a chalet in a mountain in Switzerland, and they had to organize themselves. Secondly, put a call out for people who thought they were racist. And he organized them and put them in a chalet together. And they had to live together for 2 weeks. That film, that documentary, I so want to see. And
Have you seen it?
I haven't. I've only met his father and heard about it from Jean Benoit.
But you've seen it or you haven't?
I have not.
Oh.
I have not seen it. They
When
just told me about it.
Oh, so it's new.
No, it's old. It's probably 70s or 80s, early 80s.
And he has two different groups that he's putting together in the one film? Or
No, these are two different films.
Oh,
One
okay.
about power and one about racism.
Okay.
Yeah, it must have been 70s. Must have been the 70s. Ivan Dalam, which is Yvandalain.
Well, I'd watch that with you.
Oh, I know. And this, gosh, I'm thinking about that now. I should get that. That should be the film that we show.
So you mentioned that because of that film that you mentioned with her. It seems to me all those questions would need to be answered. I mean, that seems like that 18 minutes of film, it would be interesting to watch that feature film. You said it's been remade several times.
Yeah, there was another one where the man was the racist, some belligerent, sort of, unfortunately, it's blue collar, rugged, asshole kind of guy, middle aged. So you recognize that he's stuck with himself, and he's angry about something. Sure, we know that he is angry about something, and we don't know what it is. And he lays into a guy who gets on the bus, and the guy says, "Do you have your ticket?" And he says, "Yeah, I have a 1 year pass, in fact." And he just keeps going about your kind, and the economy for this place has helped your kind, and he's it's the age old complaint that xenophobic complaint that new people who come to this country take all the resources and they take the jobs. They don't. I mean, usually they don't take the jobs, and so yeah, yeah. Um,
So it seems to me that beginning of the film, I'd love to see it because it almost seems like it could start a comedy. It could, especially if like a Bill Murray at the beginning of Groundhog Day, it's not that different. And I could see it as a comedy if she gets off the train and she's left somewhere and you're like, what the hell? She deserves it. But there's something hapless. And if she's a good actress, she can get people on her side with why she was like that, even if it was a comedy.
Yeah, that's nice. So the guy, the male counterpart, or when the bad guy is a man, he calls. So a white man stands up and says, "Listen, I won't stand for this." And the guy says, "All right, then you want to fight about it? Step outside." And the bus stops at the next stop, and the guy agrees to fight him. The black man says, listen, you don't need to do this, man. And he says, just a second. The guy steps outside, he's expecting a fight. The other one says to the bus driver,
Close the door.
close the door, drive on. And that's what
coming.
Yeah, that one was nice. That one was nice. And the guy, you see him jumping up and down, kind of having a tantrum as the bus drives off. And here, as you were describing the other day, he's being manly, right? And it's extreme. He looks like a baby. But on the other hand, you do want to still have empathy for that man.
Or understanding. Empathy. Empathy. The more I can interchange those words, and then sometimes I can't. Empathy has where you're feeling what they're feeling, which is more than even understanding. But do you want to feel? It would be great if you could empathize with a villain, and that can make any villain, no matter how bad the crime or whatever, more appealing dramatically. At least to be present enough to watch them. So when you say, I don't want to program films that have the bad guy that kills somebody or learns a lesson at the end, it's set, right? Isn't that what you said? Or no? What'd you say?
Well,
you don't want
I don't know about somebody kills somebody, but like this, the example of the Schwarzfahrer, this film we're talking about.
And is that a good example or a bad example?
It's an example that is well used and everyone cheers. I guess I just would like to see one that is continued empathy, and as we're talking about, having empathy for the bad guy too.
I think the film would have to end differently. It's a little bit, for what you described, it sounds a little long for that one thing to happen, to build up that long. That's why I need to see it. It sounds like for you to have empathy for the person who's considered, let's call him the antagonist, rather than the protagonist. Are they really, or the villain? I guess depends how you see it. You would need to know something would have to be revealed about them for you to empathize with. But in that film, there was not.
Right.
So something else would have to be shown right after that, horrible incident. Something else would have to be shown with that. Okay, here's another thing to say. Really, just because she was so mean to the black guy and the black guy eats her ticket, that makes him okay for doing that? Really, nobody asked that question ever.
Right.
That's a problem.
A tit for tat.
That's a problem. That's a problem. I'm not saying, even judging if it was right or not. It's really funny. It's ingenious. I like that. But is it really right? You can analyze both sides. And I bet if I showed that movie to somebody that has a similar fear of blacks or whatever, they will tell you that the antagonist or villain is different than the way you're looking at it.
Yeah, sure.
They'll say, oh, they weren't very nice, but he should not have eaten her ticket. She wasn't very nice. They'll downplay that part, right? They'll downplay that. That they'll downplay because that doesn't really matter to them. But eating the ticket, that was bad. That was so bad. Why did he eat that ticket? That poor lady is now outside. Really? Couldn't he have just talked to her about it in a different way? See, that's the conversation that needs to happen.
But yes, but then that's also yes, maybe. Yeah, right.
The film point of view is what it is. So it doesn't want to do that. I get it. I'm just saying, if we want to understand more, you got to open it up on both ways.
Sure. That's the conversation. That's the conversation. Look at this. It's 2:06 already, and we haven't mentioned number 45, empathy-less-ness.
Why do you want to ruin a good conversation? Just kidding.
I didn't say the name. It was just, I just thought it was an easy example.
It's too easy, actually.
It's too easy.
Because we don't know if he's empathy-less-ness. We do not know what he's thinking.
No.
We don't know.
No.
Because somebody else, all of his actions, I have a friend who can explain all of his actions and explain them, and she makes it sound like, oh no, he's concerned with this and this and that. He doesn't think that's really, she can talk her way out of it. Everything he does. I mean, a lot of people don't. I think the only way we'll know these things is with time. Um,
And I mean, I don't quite care for the way Lawrence does after Rachel Maddow. Lawrence, I forgot his last name, the news guy on MSNBC.
uh,
He digs into him a little too much
you
sometimes.
think what do you mean, like he name calls?
Oh no,
Rachel
he
Maddow
just
does it
really
too.
he digs at his lack of empathy and just keeps, like he would be a baby killer kind of person. And that's not necessary. That's
So,
not necessary to really hammer that home.
well, it is for somebody wants to drool and watch that. It's about ratings. Somebody's drooling and watching that. It's just bad.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, but Rachel Maddow is clearer and more researched, and I
And she
don't.
still does name calling though sometimes, which I don't like. But I agree with you.
Hmm.
Sometimes she does. She gets her little digs in there without letting the research. And I find that I don't think it makes her case stronger when she does that.
No, the name calling does not.
But people get
Um,
emotional.
yeah, well, I have to zip. I'm starting a conference tomorrow, the Homeschoolers Conference,
Oh yeah.
Homeschoolers of California, and we've got a trailer up and everything. Oh, you should look at our trailer. I'm quite proud of it. Let me
Okay.
see.
Yay.
Pull it up for you. And there it is. I could share it with you. It's only 3 minutes long.
Okay. Let's
And
see it.
there, here it is.
Oh.
See it?
I see something coming.
How do we get that incredible learning atmosphere that's at the Berlin Film Festival's children's section to the United States? The larger problem is why we don't have more of those in the United States.
I definitely agree about like how international films can help kids sort of feel more connected.
We've got this huge country with a large public school system, and yet the world is getting smaller, is very globalized, and most of the country, I would dare to say, never interacts with someone who's different than them or speaks another language, etc. So we're trying to provide a service, a product, to take into the school system, so hopefully help mitigate some of that.
I can't think of any better way to communicate with a generation that's grown up on screens. It seems to me that the greatest way to gain empathy for somebody else is to see their lives.
Also would like students to know that there are impactful people in each culture in today's day and age with the education system just as a whole. I feel like they do a bad job of representing other cultures, not just Black culture, but Indigenous culture, Native American culture, every other culture.
From a distance, that same experience that, we're dealing with racism, we're dealing with, government structures that are frustrating us as non-voting members of the population. I think to be able to engage with students that are in a very different culture, but having a very similar experience in a lot of ways would be super valuable.
It's part of my job, not just to teach students the language, but to really kind of get them to understand the culture and the cultural differences.
I'm also intrigued by live students somewhere else that they could interact with. That kind of gives them, they have skin in the game now.
One of the hardest things I have is how much time I spend finding these resources.
Film is a way to connect people in a way that I don't think you can by explanation. People don't have the ability to have these kind of experiences, so they have them watching a film. They have them being immersed in someone else's life.
Test it and get their feedback live or however you do it. And it's all, pretty real-time information that we can use to really mold our project.
Hollywood is fabulous, but Hollywood just keeps retelling the same stories over and over again. And you get a story from India or from Uzbekistan or from, even France. And it has a different cadence. It has a different point of view. It has a different style of storytelling. And I think that's so valuable for kids to experience, especially kids that don't have the chance to travel.
When I find a pre-made thing that fits my class, it's like, heaven sent. It's it's pure gold.
What we're trying to do is harness the power of stories to educate and to really teach kids and children cultural literacy through international films. When they open their eyes to different cultures, it really is memorable for them.
It's not only about learning of different cultures represented on the film, but also how this film creates knowledge of the world.
The end.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty good.
I think it does the trick, doesn't it? I mean, it says.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. We've got more than 20 hours of interviews, I think. Well, that was good. Good. Do you approve of the clip?
I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
He's so smart. Look at all the things. I look at it, I go, really, did I say that? It's so funny. Because, because I'm in a different psychological state. That's really that's a whole other separate thing. It's almost like, really, I did say that. That sounds good. I'm almost watching it like someone else is saying it.
I know, right?
Like
right.
I'm saying it like I couldn't have said that.
I know,
because I'm just in a different, probably, mind space now where I didn't remember. Oh yeah, I remember saying that. I really don't.
But it's also the objectivity and the value of your work. When I read statements I've said or read something that I wrote a long time ago and it still holds up and it's still powerful today. Okay.
No, it's because Jesus is with us. That's the only answer.
That's the perfect thing to end on.
You just don't get it. You're not saved. You don't get it.
I am too. I'm saved. Where's my piggy
I saved
bank?
myself.
I saved myself. I did. Darling, it was so lovely talking about empathy-less-ness. We've spoken about empathy-ness, fullness, a lot, and that's good. But empathy-less.
I have no empathy for the conversation of empathy.
I imagine we're going, listen to this line, would you please? Oh, I have to go back. Let me see here. Back to this line. Go back to this line. Oh my goodness, I want to update. All right, update. Oh shoot. Edit and settings. View. How about that? Okay. Oh, there it is.
I have a minute, and then I can look, and then I have to vamoose.
All right. I just have to say
like a moose.
more. Okay. That was not it. We also identified that isolation is also the root of social illness. Due to the pandemic, we are isolated from our world, and we hope Screen 360 TV can help. I changed the sentence, and they didn't include it. Okay, I'll ask you later. Bye.
You what? Oh.
I changed the sentence, and they didn't save it where I wanted it to say.
Okay.
So it's referring to the two illnesses, and that isolation is the root of what we're experiencing now in the pandemic, but it also is the root of our social ills. Yeah, that's it. That's the answer.
Okay.
Sister Mary Catherine Mary has spoken.
Father Vinnie Durante is going to absolve you of your sins, sister.
Please, it's been 48 years since my last confession.
Why? Oh, you just had one. Why? What's the hurry for the next one?
That's right. Anoint me for the next one so I don't have to come back into this box.
Another 48 years. You're so young.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, darling. I'll send you the copy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.